Hey everybody, it's Yoli Medina, and I am covering the Brian Kohberger case, or trying to. And for those who are not aware of this case, this is a case of four students, Maddie, Kaylee, Xana, and Ethan, who were young in their 20s, who were unalived at a home near the University of Idaho, and they were brutally unalived. And Brian Kohberger is accused of committing these crimes. And so his case is going to go to trial in August. And there's a pretrial conference next week. So we're getting close. In the meantime, there's been so much going on in this case that is just, it's like a soap opera, really. In the last week and a half, let's say, I woke up and I looked on mainstream media, YouTube, my regular thing. And there was this headline that Brian Kohberger's mother is preventing Brian Kohberger from taking a plea deal. She is telling him not to take a plea deal. I don't know where that came from, but as soon as it came, it went. And it was spouted out by this certain writer who has done a book on this Brian Kohberger case. But in any event, so that was the drama. And then there was the secret hearing on the docket. And people were, what is the secret hearing? What is it? What is it? We're trying to figure out what it is. And it just showed up. So that was on May 5th. So the court issued an order regarding that hearing. So that's how everybody knew what the hearing was about. And it was about the prosecution wanting to do psychoneurological testing on Brian Kohberger. And so the court issued an order, and it was an interesting order because the court said that he was going to allow the prosecution to do their tests, but they weren't allowed to do personality tests. And I think that's interesting because for those of you who don't know, I have a bachelor's degree in psychology, and a lot of people don't know that obsessive compulsive disorder and obsessive compulsive personality disorder are two different things. And so obsessive compulsive disorder is an anxiety disorder. It's when people have intrusive thoughts, they do repetitive things, they wash their hands constantly, they have repetitive features and repetitive behaviors. So that's the disorder because it does interfere somewhat with somebody's life. The personality disorder, the obsessive compulsive personality disorder, is a disorder where the person is very strict. They want to be perfect. They want order, and they just need order. They can't handle chaos. They need everything just perfection. So that's the difference between the two. So anyway, I thought that was interesting. And the court's reasoning was because Brian Kohberger's own psychologists and neurologists, they did not do personality testing on him. So therefore, the state wouldn't need to do it because it's not proper rebuttal testimony. And then he also said that if they did personality testing, the state, that it would open up a can of worms. And so it's not proper rebuttal testimony. So the other court order that came out was that Brian Kohberger's family is allowed to sit in the court. They don't have to wait until they're called as a witness and then be able to sit in the court because that's what the prosecution wanted. And so, I mean, they weren't there. They don't know what their son did. They weren't there. Whatever they know is not going to be, they're not going to tailor their testimony according to the witnesses that were there. So anyway, that was a good ruling. And then I see headlines that come out, and this is all while I'm trying to do a day job. So I see headlines come out that from mainstream media that finally there's a motive for why Brian Kohberger did what he did. Okay, what's a motive? And this is mainstream media. According to this certain writer, that Brian Kohberger wanted to impress his criminology professor, who's an older lady, very well-known lady, at DeSales University, and that he wanted to commit the perfect crime to please her because he had a fascination with her. Okay, as soon as that came out the next day, this professor, I'm not going to say her name, but this professor at DeSales University shut that down. I mean, this certain writer was saying that this professor, criminology professor, that she called Brian Kohberger's parents immediately after he was arrested, that she was going to go with the Kohberger's family to the trial and sit with them, that she had brokered a deal with Kohberger's sister to write a book, and none of that's true. And so it was kind of embarrassing for mainstream media because they had to come back on and say, this certain professor, Dr. So-and-so, she has said that none of this is true. So there went that. So then there's, and I laugh, because this green car now, this lime green Elantra, has now been coming around in media, social media. And this car, I remember it distinctly. It was a lime Hyundai Elantra. And when the demolition of the home, because in this case, the home was where the students weren't alive, the crime scene was torn down and buried somewhere where nobody knows. And so during the demolition, this lime green car was circling the where they were demolishing the home. Well, the lime green Hyundai Elantra lives in one of those apartments. The person lives there. So now it's come back around, and now they're saying that, and this could be a possibility, that one of the screen captures or videos of what the state is alleging is Brian Kohberger's white Elantra could actually be this lime green Elantra, because it looks white when it's under certain lighting at night. So I don't know, that might be true. But I laugh because I distinctly remember the lime green Elantra and how people were trying to figure out if it had been painted, it obviously probably had been painted, but I mean, they don't sell lime green Elantras that I know of. I mean, like lime bright green. But anyway, and the other thing that happened is there was a psychic in this case early on who was basically saying that a professor at Idaho State University, a female professor, had something to do with this crime. And she was adamant about it. And the professor sued her, and the case is in federal court, still going on. And this psychic made an appearance in the docket of Brian Kohberger's case. And the way it came out was there was an order by the judge denying her request for records. Now, why she'd want to get records and sealed records in the Brian Kohberger case, I have no idea. But she's wanting to get records, and she did it the wrong way. And the judge put out an order saying, sorry, you did it the wrong way. You're not a party to this proceeding. Recently, Dateline has now announced that it has new evidence that puts Brian Kohberger or ties Brian Kohberger to the victims. New evidence, and they show this pool party where Brian Kohberger allegedly, he did go to a pool party, but I mean, he allegedly talked to a woman there, and they exchanged phone numbers, and nothing became of it. And so allegedly they have this witness who was exchanged or phone numbers, or who gave Brian Kohberger her phone number or whatever. And she's going to give an interview. And so now that's going to happen tomorrow. Well, today, maybe this video will probably go out May 9th. So May 9th, Friday, there's going to be a Dateline exclusive about new evidence. And I thought there was a gag order in this case, a non-dissemination order. So it's very confusing because I have no idea what to think now, because I thought this court was going to be more open. It was. It even put out an order that said, and I covered it, it said that the parties should not just be randomly filing sealed documents. There needs to be good cause and a motion with good cause stating why, not just restating the law or the rule that they can file things under seal, but stating the facts of why. And so for a while there, we started getting, it was more open. I mean, we did get some bits and pieces of information, but not the whole story, but just bits and pieces. And then documents start being sealed again, and there's a sealed hearing. I mean, this case is really hard. I mean, it's hard to follow because it's like a soap opera. It's like tomorrow, I'm wondering what is going to happen in this case. What is a Dateline program going to reveal? And why aren't they getting in trouble if it's real evidence? And where did they get this evidence if they're not supposed to be disseminating evidence, meaning parties or the state or the prosecution, that they're not supposed to be giving out evidence unless the judge allows it, I guess. So now Dateline has new evidence. So it's been quite the ride. This was 1 week of Kohberger. So I'm waiting to see what's going to happen with the Dateline episode. And really the only things of substance legally were some sealed orders or sealed documents about experts, and the 2 orders regarding Brian Kohberger's family being allowed to be at the trial, and the order about the psychological testing by the prosecution. And the rest is just drama. So it's been quite interesting. I'm actually tired talking about it. Anyway, those are my thoughts. Let me know what you think. I don't know what I think. I think this has got to be the craziest case. For sure. Anyway, talk to you guys on the next one.